So, so Alaska is going to vote differently in 2022. How's the rest of the country going? You mentioned Wisconsin. So how's this ground game, and how do people get involved?
Okay, fantastic. So I've been working, full time on this. I sold my company so I could really do this political innovation work. I decided it was more important than my cheese, even though I love my company.
Thank you for that, by the way.
Thank you. Okay, and I've been working on it since 2017, and finally I realized, okay, I have to have an organization that really helps put money where mouth is, turn into action. So my organization is called, the Institute for Political Innovation. Your viewers can go to it at political-innovation.org. But the point of that organization is to make this case to people so we can all say, oh yeah, that sounds good.
You got to define
and then the
problem.
Second thing is to set up the campaigns. I shouldn't even say to set up the campaigns. It is to help
somebody like this gentleman in Alaska do what he did
in their state. Right. So
that's brilliant.
Because these changes belong to each state, belong to the people of the state. So we're a resource. So if someone's listening to this and they say, oh, we want to do that in New Jersey, or we want to do that in Nebraska, then they can get in touch with us through political-innovation.org, and we help incubate, these campaigns. And so we have now, and so when people get in touch with us, let's say there already is a campaign nascent, most of them are nascent in the states, we can put people in touch with that, campaign in their state or help them start one. And we are working with, people from around 10 states in a very serious way right now. There'll be multiple ballot measures like Alaska in 2022. Which states they'll be in, that's not final yet, but people are looking at it, and there'll be campaigns founded, and they'll vote. And then there'll be multiple states like where I'm from in Wisconsin, where we're working with our legislature and our governor to pass a bill. And so you're going to see these changes made. And the really cool thing is we don't have to change all 50 states to start seeing a difference in Washington, D.C., because once you have 10 senators elected with different incentives and more freedom and agency on the part of 50 people in Congress, there's still going to be Democrats and Republicans, but they're going to have a lot of agency to collaborate and to be innovative and to answer to their general election voters. And I think it's, really quite, it's so exciting. I mean, people are totally into this. And look, don't we all want something right now that isn't about doubling down on this side or this side? Like, since we think that's our only choice, it's definitely true. We make a choice. We're
right.
more
and it's
than
the end of the world if your candidate doesn't win. So I got to ask you, innovators usually create a lot of animosity. So have either of the parties started to come after you? Because I would imagine as you begin to make gains, I mean, Alaska, everybody's like, Alaska, not a big deal. But if you pull off 10 more states in 2022, there's going to be like a list of your name on the, in the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, and you'll be like enemy number one. Particularly all these consultants that make all of this money creating all of this. So has that started to happen yet, or are you still kind of enjoying the newness of it all? Because you're going to be the Steve Jobs of politics. That's what's going to happen.
Okay, in my dreams, although I got black turtleneck on, so you're not doing my
You're dressing the part.
Okay, so no, not yet. And in my dreams, this movement has success such that, people start to say, that's bad, and I'm not, it happens a little, but not to that degree yet. But here's the thing that's really interesting about this. This is not the get rid of the politics industry, plan. This is make sure that the way the politics industry does well is by making their voter customers happy. They're going to get to make campaign commercials. They're going to get to run social media, et cetera. But the way, and again, as I said, you can have the same number of jobs in Congress and someone's going to win it. And a lot of cases, it'll be the same people who win now. They'll just have more freedom. It's a way better job. Like Republican Congressman Mike Gallagher from Wisconsin is, has said recently he really supports this bill in Wisconsin. And he said that selfishly, This would make his job.
It would free him from his bonds.
Yes, and then if he had colleagues who were also freed from those bonds, meaning, you're sort of freed up to use your talent and your passion, your patriotism
to solve people's problems.
I'm going to I'm going to sound a little, sort of, I don't know, maybe even overly optimistic. This is like win, 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 win. You know who loses? Party leadership.
Right.
Self-interested money in politics.
Yep.
Because now voters will be more important than money. But then they also everybody will live in a better country.
So everybody complains about Citizens United. They also complain about gerrymandering. It seems to me, basically what you're proposing, basically defeats both of those. Really, because it really just it short circuits Citizens United and gerrymandering, and it really puts the power back in the hands of the people. I just want to talk about incentives, because what I realized, as I started working on China and when I was at the Pentagon in 2014, as I was talking to business owners about why they were doing the things that they were doing, which were counter to American interests, they were doing it because they were incentivized to do so. And so what the Communist Party in China has done is tied incentives for the business owner to their interests. And so what you're saying in a political sense, let's tie the incentives in the industry to our citizens' interests. And so in a way, that becomes a way that you get the right kind of outcomes that you want. I mean, I think it's such a cool thing that you've done. I mean, okay, I got to ask, how long did it take you to figure this out, to uncrack this nut? It took me 3 years to figure out what was going on in China. How long did it take you to figure this out?
Yeah, that's interesting. There was like the buildup of my engagement in politics, so all the learnings that I had, all the things I tried to do that didn't make any difference, like, help candidates or care about policy.
So this is while you're running your company. You're donating to political parties and you're trying to get your candidates elected, which I see all the time. And then you're like, this is not working.
Yeah, and then I'm doing policy, and then I was doing let's all come together, bipartisanship, and then none of that was working. And finally, and credit to a former Republican Congressman, Mickey Edwards, who had me see, oh no, it's the system. And I'm totally a systems thinker, and it was invisible to me. And so he says it's a system. Boom. So I'm like, bam. And then this connection to competition, which is, I would say, one of the most unique things that my work brings to this, which is to say they're competing on the wrong things and they're winning on the wrong things. That came when I was doing my company strategy, and it was absolutely a light bulb moment. I mean, I would say
actually, this is really neat, because you're working on your company strategy, and this happens to me too. I'll get an idea when I'm looking at something else, and it applies over there. So you're kind of a pattern person. So you took a pattern that you were seeing with your company. You're like, boom, this is it.
Yeah, I took a framework. It's called the 5 Forces Framework, because the person who later became my co-author from Harvard Business School had invented this framework, 5 Forces, that we use to understand competition in our businesses. It's really classic business school stuff. And so when I was figuring out, how do I sell more cheese, and who are my customers, and who are my suppliers, and what are my channels, this other side of my head was going, oh, we're not the most important customer. Oh, wait, there's high barriers to entry. There's no new competition. It was just bam, 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 bam. I would say it probably happened in one day. Now, was there, maybe it's not even perfect now, but my point is further development of the ideas, exactly. But this light bulb of competition and this way of looking at it, which enabled us, I didn't want to just look at it and say, oh, now it's so interesting that we understand why it's screwed up. I only wanted to look at it so once we understood, we could figure out what we should do. And so what we should do, as in go to final 5 voting, that took longer. And
so that is that when you kind of got introduced, or how did you run into Michael Porter? Because so you have this light bulb moment. You're doing company strategy. So how do you go from there to Michael Porter, and then you write the report in 2017?
because Michael Porter was doing my company strategy with me.
Perfect. Okay, there you go.
And then I, have this whole other
So you're
thing.
like, hey, we should do this for the politics industry.
Yeah, so I said, I basically sold him on being my co-author, and I said, you don't have to do anything, I got it all figured out, it's all done, but I wanted him to join me really because he added this enormous legitimacy, which is to say, if the creator of the five...
Like he understands competition, so
if he buys into, and I will tell you that even in the dialogue, he wasn't like really on board at the beginning, but even in the dialogue, as I convinced him, my success in teaching and convincing him only reinforced to me like sort of how valuable it was,
Right, because if you can talk somebody, if you can explain, that's the ultimate reinforcing behavior, because now you realize that, okay, I understand it enough that I can explain it in a way that somebody can logically pick it up and take it.
Yeah, and then he, bought in and eventually became quite passionate, about the work as well. And so, fast forward to today, again, just hats off to Alaska that they have now made it clear that Final Five voting is achievable. And we know from theory that it's powerful, and now we begin to see people taking advantage of it in Alaska. So it even begins to get proven on this, small scale. And we've got the campaigns around the country. So I hope that your viewers will. I mean, there's a couple. By the way, people don't totally have to go start a campaign or donate huge dollars. They can also just really spread the word.
Right.
Because most of us think that to make things better, either we have to get some mythical perfect change candidate as president, which that's not going to end up doing it, or that our side has to win everything and like slam its priorities down the other side.
And crush everybody else.
Yes. Or that the reforms we have to make are ones that require constitutional amendments, like people want to get, a deal with Citizens United, or they
Get
want
rid
to
of
get
the
electoral college. They want to do all these things, and you're not going to get constitutional amendments, which is even takes away the necessity to figure out if we should have them, which I have different views on. So this is what we've got is Final Five voting, which is powerful and it's achievable. And it's nonpartisan, because almost all those other choices, the things we would say, let's do that.
They're very partisan. And it's what's scary because, I look at China, I see an authoritarian regime, and I see a lot of the same types of things being introduced into our system primarily because of the reasons you're saying. One party wins and they just want to impose their view on everybody else. And that's not what we're about. We're about, individual liberty, rule of law, private property, all of these things that really make our system unique, and we've gotten away from, and I think it's primarily because of the things that you bring up in your book. So, I mean, it's hats off to you, and, I really want to thank you for being a true American patriot. And, I've been in national security for almost my entire life. And I didn't realize how important, the security of our political system, particularly how it relates to, how we preserve this constitutional republic. And I think you're doing so much. You're doing more, quite frankly, than the Army, the Air Force, the Marines, and the Air Force than they're doing to protect our country. And that's because our system is not under attack from invaders from outside our shores. It's really us. We're tearing the house down, and it's because we've allowed the system to it's kind of grown up. It just happened. It kind of came into being. And thank God you recognized it. You wrote a book, and now you're actually doing something about it. So I really want to congratulate you. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, from all Americans, and I want to thank you also for coming on generally speaking, because this has been probably one of the most exciting discussions I've had. So thank you so much.
Rob, thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's so energizing to me to talk about this stuff, and the work is hard. So what I say to you is, again, thanks for the compliments. And this democracy belongs to all of us. I do love the idea, and thank you for loving it. It only happens if the viewers, enough of them, doesn't have to be everyone, but enough of your viewers then say, I'm going to watch that TED Talk and send it to a friend. I'm going to share this, Rob's, generally speaking, YouTube link here. Get the word out. It doesn't have to be like this, and it doesn't have to keep getting worse before it gets better. We can make a difference.
Yeah, and we'll put the link to the TED Talk with this video, and also the link for your book, because I think people should read it if they want to learn more. And then they should go to the website. So we'll put the link to the website so they can get involved. And I want to help in any way I can too. So consider me your new soldier in your political innovation movement.
Yes, General.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.